Illari is Overwatch 2's latest addition to the support hero lineup, and comes with some very powerful abilities. But not everything about these abilities is obvious at first. I have been playing exclusively the new hero since the Season 6 update, and have discovered some lesser known mechanics about her abilities. I have compiled everything you need to know into this guide, so let's jump in. Illari's Solar Rifle Primary is a long-range weapon that fires a projectile, acting as a hit scan in a similar way to Ashe's weapon. Keep this in mind, as even though it looks like a laser, the projectile can be eaten up by abilities like D.Va's Defense Matrix or Sigma's Kinetic Grasp. The weapon will automatically charge over time using solar energy to increase its damage up to 3 times. Waiting for these charged shots will give you a much higher damage output than firing faster, but with less charge. This will allow you to deal more damage while reloading less, and allow you to take down squishies with only 2 well-placed headshots. With the rifle's high charge damage of 75, it is absolutely worth going for body shots if you are struggling to hit the enemy's heads. You can of course use lesser charged shots to finish off targets who are low, but your main focus should be on using the full charge where possible. An important note here is that your primary fire will not charge while you're using your secondary healing beam or using a melee attack. This means that unlike Baptiste, you cannot make use of the charge time to continuously fire in an alternating pattern to maximize both healing and damage output. The rifle's damage falloff starts at a generous 30 meters, which means you can use her primary fire effectively even at sniper ranges. But be aware that at 50 meters, you will only be dealing half of the damage. Illari's secondary is a healing beam that boasts the highest burst healing in the game at 120 health per second, but is much more limited in range than her primary fire. The ability will heal the first hurt ally that the beam touches within its 15 meter range, but will travel through full health allies and enemies. The beam requires line of sight to your target, so it can't be blocked by shields or other hurt allies. The healing beam is a charge-based ability like the primary fire, and has a short delay before it begins charging once used, so avoid tapping it to reduce your downtime, and instead use large bursts when needed. You want to avoid completely depleting the charge, as you will have an additional penalty preventing you from using the ability at all until fully charged, in a similar fashion to Orisa's primary fire overheat. I advise mainly using this burst heal for the tank or for critically low allies, as your main healing output should come from her healing pylon. The healing beam is amazing in emergency situations, and can rack up the saved player count with ease as long as you don't stray too far from your teammates. So try to position yourself with these ranges in mind. Illari's healing pylon is her main sustained healing ability, and comes in the form of a throwable pylon that has 75 health and 75 shields. It can be placed on any surface and will heal an ally for 40 health per burst. The pylon will prioritize the lowest health ally within its 17.5 meter range, but it requires a line of sight from a yellow ball to the ally to work, so shields and objects can get in the way. It's important to note that the healing burst is a projectile and can be eaten by abilities such as D.Va's Defense Matrix or amplified with Baptiste's ultimate. The healing over time really isn't the fastest, so avoid using this for frontline combat and for tanks, where your secondary fire will be much more useful. Instead, keep it closer to your backline for a longer lasting effect by providing a safe area in cover for your teammates to retreat to, or on your side of a choke to give the whole team more sustained health. You can alternatively use it selfishly to help you in duels. In this case, you can place it on the floor and use it as a 150 health shield that will heal you over time. This will give you a major advantage in any 1v1, as you will have much more time to land your shots, as the enemy is effectively fighting both you and your pylon. Your healing pylon placement will be very important to each teamfight, and will be a high priority target for enemies, so focusing on hard to reach areas is key. Your pylon will remain active even after you die, so good placement can mean you are still being useful even while spectating. The 17.5 meter radius can give you a large area to play with, but be cautious of placing it too high, as you will lose some effective range. It can be placed on some moving objects such as the payload if you're on attack, although you cannot place the pylon on push bots or the push barriers. Keep in mind that if the pylon collides with an object, it will break immediately. I will be covering some great pylon locations soon, so make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss that one. The pylon comes with an 8-second cooldown when prone, after which you can replace it immediately if the pylon hasn't taken damage in the last 3 seconds. This delay is equal to the cooldown of the beginning of a shield regeneration. If the pylon is destroyed or has taken damage within the last 3 seconds when you destroy it, you will receive a 12-second cooldown penalty. This penalty does not stack with the original 8-second cooldown and will instead replace it entirely. Because of this, keeping an eye on your pylon's health will allow you to make better decisions on changing its placement mid-match, as it might be worth waiting a few seconds before destroying your pylon to avoid the 12-second penalty. There is also a short delay between breaking your pylon and being able to replace it, so get into the habit of just replacing it directly when you only want to move it. This is especially useful for if your team repositions and you need that extra healing, or if you know that the enemy is about to make a push and can take out your pylon, you can destroy it using the action key before it takes any damage and replace it safely without taking the 12-second penalty. Idari's Outburst comes with some mechanics that are not as well known. Outburst will push back enemies, dealing 10 damage and boost you in the direction you are moving. This can be very useful as a movement ability to gain or reduce distance to targets, and you can even hold the movement key to gain extra distance, but it has another use. There is a way to use the ability so that it will boost you much higher up in the air. To perform this boosted jump, you must not be inputting any movement keys, hold jump, and use the outburst. This is an extremely useful technique to learn, as it will open up much of a high ground and can allow you to escape bad situations or get better angles to use your primary fire with. While this ability can be used aggressively to push low targets, it is particularly good as a defensive maneuver, so try to think of which abilities the enemy has that could be difficult to counter, such as dive heroes or ultimates. You do not need to be on the ground to be able to use the ability though, which opens up some double jump parkour rollouts, or can even be used to save yourself from being booped off the map. There are a few advanced movement techniques that you can use with Outburst. I discovered these techniques on Get Quaketon's YouTube channel, so I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check his video out. This first Outburst movement technique is extremely useful when getting into cover or running from enemies. Usually, Outburst will send you upwards and into a very predictable curve where you can easily take damage. But by combining a movement key and timing the ability to push you into an incline, like stairs, you will instead hug the ground while gaining the speed boost, making you much harder to hit. You can perform this technique in any direction as long as you are pushing into the incline. Some of the shorter stairs can be more tricky to get the timing just right, so to make this easier you can go up the stairs at a bit of an angle. This technique is called Stair Burst. Once you have got the timing down, you can then combine Stair Burst with some other techniques to improve its usefulness. The first is to hold the movement key and turn the camera to control your movement direction while maintaining your speed. You can even turn around completely using this. The second is to start a Stair Burst and switch your movement to a strafe key to maintain all of your movement speed at 90 degrees. This can wildly throw off any enemy you are fighting and is fairly easy to pull off. These techniques are called turn bursts. While you can't jump using a stair burst, you can use a turn burst to drop off an incline and hold space to perform a bunny hop to maintain your speed for a little longer. This works best when your outburst animation finishes just before you hit the ground, so you may have varying results on smaller drops, but what if there are no inclines available? If you bump your head on terrain while using Starburst, you will be thrown back down and hug the floor in the same way as Stairburst. I have been practicing this one a lot recently in my Twitch streams, so make sure to follow me there to see just how useful it can be. I found the easiest and most common places to bump my head on are doorways. You want to jump just before the door and activate Outburst in the air for the best results. This takes some careful timing to pull off, as if performed too soon, you will lose momentum, too late, and you will not bump your head at all. The biggest advantage to using the head bump technique is that you can buffer another jump to bunny hop as soon as your animation has ended, maintaining your speed for longer. You can also combine turn bursts and the jump to get some crazy fast movement, although this takes a lot more practice to get just right. Illari's ultimate, Captive Sun, grants you flight for the full 5-second duration and allows you to fire a giant ball of solar energy that explodes on contact with terrain. The explosion alone is very powerful, as it deals 50 splash damage in an 8-meter radius, but the projectile will also ignite both enemies it travels through and those caught in the explosion radius. This will apply a status effect to ignited enemies, causing a 40% slowdown for 7 seconds. If ignited enemies take 90 damage or more during the 7-second duration, it will trigger the Sunstruck effect, dealing an additional 120 damage. Combined, the minimum damage you can deal to a target with this combination is 260 damage, so bear in mind that this may not be a guaranteed kill if the target receives 61 or more healing during that time. This is fairly rare, however, as in reality you will likely deal more than the minimum of 90 damage required to trigger the explosion, with your charged headshot dealing 112, or a charged body shot and melee dealing 105. You are much more likely to see the effect cleansed by abilities such as Kiriko Suzu, Moira's Fade, or Mei's Cryo Freeze. While activating the ability shoots you up in the air, it can sometimes be more useful to return closer to the ground to shoot the projectile, as it will be easier to ignite more enemies if they are spread over a larger distance, but within the same line of sight. Remember, you are still able to fly even after shooting, so use this time to reposition and get a better view of ignited enemies. The Captive Sun projectile will currently pass through any shield, and the explosion radius cannot be blocked, but this is likely to change before Illari is added to competitive modes next week. I will cover the nerfs in a separate video, so keep an eye out for that. Keep in mind that Captive Sun can be eaten by D.Va's defense matrix or reflected by Genji, so tracking counter abilities will be very important to getting the most out of your ultimate. On top of the 120 damage to the enemy, Sunstruck explosions deal 100 splash damage in a 5-meter radius, meaning that if the enemies are close enough, you can get a chain reaction going, where one explosion can trigger multiple others. I found this to be a rare occurrence on most maps, however, so aim to set each player off when using your ultimate, or combine it with other ultimates like Zarya's Graviton or Orisa's Terra Surge for an easy team kill. Illari is a very high skill ceiling hero, and new tricks will be discovered with time, so if you want to keep up to date on the latest techniques, make sure you join my community Discord server, where we share and test different abilities on a regular basis. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.